Hey, I'm Scott. In this video, I'll show you the detailed steps you need to perform in order to download, build, install, and play the Wolfanoz 32GB RetroPie Arcade Classics image on your Raspberry Pi. This video is part of a series of videos related to the RetroPie, a retro gaming system that runs on Raspberry Pi hardware. This image has over 2,400 classic arcade games for both the horizontal monitor and the vertical monitor. The software used by this image is MAME, RetroPie, Emulation Station, and Attract Mode. MAME stands for Multiple Arcade Machine Emulation. Emulation Station is the default user interface associated with RetroPie. Attract Mode is a more robust graphical user interface. Now let's get started.
Okay, I'm just going to bring up Amazon Prime and we're going to go over the Raspberry Pi that you need for this project. You could purchase a Raspberry Pi 3B or a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. I would recommend the 3B Plus just so you can use it for this project or other projects. There's a thing called the starter kit. If you've never purchased a Raspberry Pi, then get the starter kit. For this project, I'm going to get the 32GB version. So the starter kit will come with the Raspberry Pi, a power supply. It'll come with some heat sinks for the chips on the Raspberry Pi. It'll come with a case for the Raspberry Pi, an on-off switch for the Raspberry Pi. And it comes with a microSD card, 32GB, and most importantly, it comes with this micro USB card reader that plugs into your USB port on your PC, and that's how you're going to get the software from your PC onto your micro SD card that will then slip into the Raspberry Pi. So once again, if you don't have a Raspberry Pi, I would recommend the starter kit, and you can get that for 85 bucks. I already have some Raspberry Pis, so for this project I purchased, let's see which one, the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. I purchased this one here for $65, and it came with the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, the on-off switch. It came with the heat sinks, the power supply, and a case. I'll have links to this in the comments of this video, so you can be linked directly to this Raspberry Pi, the starter kit, and to the Raspberry Pi that I paid for with the clear case. In this portion of the video, I'm going to go over the free software that you need to download off the internet in order to complete the task of downloading the Wolfanoz 32GB image and creating the image onto a microSD card to place in your Raspberry Pi. So the first thing here is just to show you where once I download all the software, I just created a folder on my desktop. I call it Raspberry Pi, and it includes the software that I downloaded off the internet. For example, the uTorrent software. I just put shortcuts in here so that I would have all the software in one place to make it easy to go find everything when I do these Raspberry Pi or RetroPie projects. So we're going to work with uTorrent. You're going to download Notepad++. You're going to download Putty. You're going to download, let's see what else, SD card formatter. You're going to download Win32 Disk Imager, WinWar, I'll probably butchered that, WIN, capital R, capital A, capital R, WinWire, and WinSCP. To do that, we're going to go into the internet browser, and for all the software here, I'll have links up into the description of this video, so you'll be able to click on the links and go find all this software. But first one we're going to go to is uTorrent. Even though it has that fancy little character, we refer to it as uTorrent. You'll download that, install it, and we'll need that to get the Wolfanoz image. There'll be 28 files associated with it. Next up is you're going to download the Win32 Disk Imager, and you'll get that off the Raspberry Pi Projects site. And this will be used to actually convert the files that we download, in my case on my laptop, and create the image that we'll need to put on the microSD card. So that leads us into, once you create your image on your hard disk of your laptop or desktop, you'll need to move that to an SD card. And to do that, you may have to format your microSD card. And to do that, you'll use something called the SD card formatter. And you can get that at this site. All right, now some other pieces of software that you might need for this project or for future projects that we'll do in my videos, future videos, is PuTTY, P-U-T-T-Y. And PuTTY will let us do remote access to our Raspberry Pi from our laptop or desktop, so you can do remote control, which is really nice. You can even shut down your Pi remotely, as long as it's connected to your local network, either through a hard Ethernet cable or preferably Wi-Fi. Another piece of software is called WinSCP, and you want to download that because that will actually let you transfer files from your laptop or desktop down to your Raspberry Pi, or vice versa, from your Raspberry Pi back to your laptop or desktop. This is really handy when you want to move files around, especially in future videos when we start modifying config files. We can pass them down to the Raspberry Pi after we modify them on our laptop, or if we have modified config files on our Raspberry Pi, if we want to bring them up to our laptop to back them up. And that makes it really nice. That way, if something gets corrupted on your microSD card, you'll have a backup of everything. Another piece of software you want to download is called Notepad++. Now, your laptop or desktop probably came with Notepad. But if you're going to modify any kind of file, config file on a Linux-based system, which the Raspberry Pi, the operating systems that run on the Raspberry Pi, such as RetroPie, they're Linux-based. And you'll want to operate them with the product called Notepad++. It has something to do with, not to go too technical, but the way it handles characters at the end of line. Linux handles it a little bit different than Windows-based operating systems. So if you edit something, use Notepad++. And lastly, we'll get to WinRAR. It's a tongue twister for me. Win, capital R, capital A, capital R. It's very similar to WinZip. It's just a compression and decompression software. All right. So I think that completes this portion of the video where we talk about the software you need to download to do this video and future videos that I'll be putting out in this series. Okay, it's time for us to now go get our image. And we'll start with what's the definition of image. An image is a collection of software that goes on the micro SD card, which the Raspberry Pi can run. So in our image, we're going to have RetroPie on there, which will also be our operating system. It will have MAME, multiple arcade machine emulator on there. It'll have the game ROMs on there, which is a big deal. It'll have all the configurations preset, which is wonderful. It'll have the artwork and sound for each of the different arcade games, which is fantastic. This saves you a tremendous amount of work to go get that information. And we'll have the menu, the front-end user systems, Emulation Station, and a track mode. And they'll all be ready to go. So once you get this image and you put it on the micro SD card, you plug it in your Raspberry Pi, you're ready to go. Well, where do we go get these images at? In 2019, I started getting my images at a place called Arcade Punks. Now, just restating this again, any links that I refer to out on the internet, I'll have in the description of this video, so you can just copy and paste them into your browser and you'll get where I'm at now through when I discuss this on this video. So this is the main site of Arcade Punks, and they've got images for all kinds of things, and you can look through this on your own leisure, but this is where I come to get the images for the RetroPie and that are associated with Raspberry Pi. So it'll be this RetroPie downloads page, and it's got all kinds of images, links to all kinds of images here. And so the one we're looking for is going to be the 32 gigabyte arcade mode Wolfanoz. And so it looks like there's actually two of them in here. And what's going on here is one's a torrent servers, and then there's this private torrent. We're going to go off to torrent. So this would be the link, and we'll come back to this in a second. This is the type of download. In this case, they're torrent. You'll see torrent's pretty prevalent here. Here's a Google Doc. You'll see mega, like when we do the Mr. Burns vertical image, it's a mega. So it's a different kind of compression. It's a different place where the files are stored. So the last thing you'll see, the third portion of this line is the read info. It's a hyperlink. And the read info just gives you information about the image. It'll take you to another web page. And usually there's a video associated with each image. I highly recommend you watch these little videos, and they'll give you some background on what the image is that you're going to download that you want to install. There'll also be a little description on the image, and then you'll have some comment section down here where people will interact about the image. And it'll let you know if the image is a good image or not. But this image, this Wolfanoz 32GB image, a lot of people like this image. I like this image. It's a good image. It's got over 2,400 games, both horizontal and vertical. Okay, let's go click this link, this Wolfanoz 32GB link, the torrent. And it comes down here, it pops up a Windows. Do you want to open the Wolfanoz Arcade 32GB torrent from Ghetto Arcade Punks? We're going to open. Just say this website wants to use your program, your computer, uTorrent. Yep, we're okay with allowing that to happen. And here it pops up this window. It says, do you want to add a new torrent? And it's going to put it in the Raspberry Pi Arcade Punks, and it's going to call it this folder name, and it's going to start the torrent. And we come over here, some torrent information is going to use up this disk space, and it tells us there's part 1, 2, 3, 4, that there's 28 parts or 28 files of this torrent. And then here the file naming scheme is there's Wolfanoz Arcade Only 32GB for RPi 3. And this was for Raspberry Pi 3. That's the 3B, 3B Plus. This AM stands for Attract Mode. The ES stands for Emulation Station. And these are all selected. So it defaults to select all. If I select none, they become like that. I'm going to go ahead and select all. And I'm going to click on the OK button. At this point, the torrent is beginning. Those were all red. Now they're clear because the torrent has begun. And it's going to start downloading. So right here, it's done on part 16, 256K has come down. You can see where files are starting to come down. If we come up here to this top line, it's going to download 24.5 gigabytes. And this is my download speed, my upload speed, because I'm doing file sharing. Right now, it says my ETA is 2 days and 5 hours. This will adjust down. Here, we just went to 8 hours and 2 minutes. This will keep adjusting down, but this could take anywhere from an hour to 4 hours. When I previously downloaded this image, it did take an hour, but it wouldn't surprise me if it took 4 hours. Right now, it keeps trending down to 3 hours and 42 minutes right now. So what I'll do is I'll stop the video here while it's downloading, and once it gets done downloading, it'll give me some data telling me how much time. So once it's done downloading, I'll come back and we'll pick it up and go on to the next part of the video. Okay, just showing you some progress on this. We're down here downloading. It says we're about 44% of the way done. And estimated time left is 25 minutes. It's been going roughly maybe 15 minutes. So it does come down rapidly. And you'll see where each of these files, the percentage that they're done, completion. And so it's spread them out pretty evenly. They're all around 45%, 46, 44, 47% done, which is matching up with this. So the peer sharing is working. It's keeping a smooth download rate on each of these 28 files. All right, I'll come back when there's more to show you an example. Once again, just doing this as a demonstration so you can see, if you don't have experience with torrent files, how this whole process works and how to get your download image. All right, we're back and it's done. So everything's green, everything's at 100%. All these files are at 100%. Everything's green. How long did it take? Well, right now it's roughly 10 after 4. And if we go over here to info, It's still running because I left it open. It says 55 minutes, but it says it completed at 4:05, which was like 10 minutes ago. So it was about 45 minutes it took. So that's pretty good. I'm not complaining. So I'll take that now. So we're done with this piece. Now, if I leave this open, people are going to come into my laptop and pull these pieces off because that's part of file sharing, just so you know. So I'll end up closing torrent down, but I want to just give you all examples step by step on how you download these torrent files. All right, so next piece we're going to go, and we're going to decompress these RAR files and then build our image. All right, I'm going to close the uTorrent. Actually, I'll just minimize it for now. I'll come back later and close it, and then let's go see if we can find those 28 RAR files. So I'm in my Raspberry Pi folder. I have my Arcade Punks Images subfolder. I have a Wolfanoz subfolder off of that, and then finally the Wolfanoz Arcade Only 32GB AMES. That should sound familiar because that was the main part of the file names. So those are 28 parts. It says they came down about 4:05 p.m., which is roughly what we calculated. So now I've got to take these compressed files and I'm going to expand them and create one single file, which will be the image. They each have this image file in it, and they have a part 1, part 2, all the way up to part 28. So I'm just going to highlight them, right click, and then I'm going to extract them to this subfolder. Now click that, and there it goes. It's taken off. It says the elapsed time is 4 seconds, time left about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. So this is going to take a while. We'll just let it run. Once it finishes, I'll come back and we'll see what it produced. Just to explain some things that are going on in this window. Right now, at this exact moment, it says it's working on the part 4 file of the RAR. So it's already completed part 1, part 2, and part 3. It's on part 4. And it's extracting those and creating this file, which is the .img, and that's your image file. This is going to be the 30 gigabyte file that it creates. So it says it's roughly 19% of the way done with this file. Now it says our elapsed time's roughly 9 minutes, and we got 51 minutes to go. So this whole extraction and building the image, the .img file, that will take us roughly 1 hour. So I just wanted to let you know, now it's done with the part 4 file. We'll work on the part 5, and it's going to keep going all the way through your list to part 28. So you can watch this file change, and you can watch these green lines increment from the percentage here, and these times are all estimates, and then you can watch your process time. So it's something, you can set this in the background. I've got it on the foreground now just so we can watch it and I can video it. But so that's what's going on. We'll come back when it finishes. Okay, the extraction of our image from the 28 part files finished, and what we notice over here is a subfolder was created. Okay, so I'm just going to click on the subfolder, and in there we see our image, and it says the .img is a disk image file, and they call it 32K, which is roughly 30.5K, and the gentleman that created this image did it back on July 15, 2018. So we're done. We've now found the image out on the internet in Arcade Punks. We've downloaded the image through uTorrent of 28 parts. We've extracted the image into a single file. So now we need to put this image on a microSD card. Now to write this image file to a microSD card, we have actually two options. In your Raspberry Pi starter kit, you got a adapter for the USB port. So you slip your microSD card into that, and you put it into your USB drive on your laptop or desktop, and you can write the image here to your microSD card. The other option, there's a lot of laptops come with, because a lot of people are doing image editing and everything, they'll come with an SD slot. And so most microSD cards will come with an SD converter, an adapter for the SD slot. So you can put your microSD card into that, and you'll put that in your SD slot on your laptop. And I'm getting ready to do it right now. And so at that point, you heard the little bell. My laptop recognized it. So here it is. It's in the E slot. It's the SD card. And I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to do properties. And so what I'm looking for when I do properties is to see if it's formatted. And it's pre-formatted. It's 32 gigabytes and it's in the FAT32. So I don't have to do anything. Sometimes you'll get a new SD card and it'll be formatted just to 1 gigabyte and you'll need to reformat it. And that's why you downloaded that software, that SD card formatter software earlier in the video. But we don't have to do that. So I'm just going to click OK here. So that looks good. Our SD card is in our E slot. It's recognized. It's formatted as FAT32 and it's 32 gigabytes. So then I come up, here's my image that I'm going to write to my SD card. In order to do that, I'm going to open up this Raspberry Pi folder I found on my desktop. And this is all that software we downloaded earlier in the video. And I'm going to open up Win32 Disk Imager. It says, do you want to allow this app to make changes? Yep. So this is going to pop up. So this is a little tricky, so make sure you pay attention here, because if not, you can cause some damage. But to the right box right here, here is your device. And our microSD card is in the SD slot E. And we just looked at E, and we looked at the properties, so we know that's correct. It's 32 gigabytes. Now we have to go find an image file that we want to download to this device labeled E. So I click on the folder here. And I'm going to go to my D drive, home, Raspberry Pi, Arcade Punks, Wolfanoz, and in there. And so there it is. There's our 32 gig image, disk image. So I want to select that one. Click the open, and then we look here. Here's our image file, .img. It's going to be written to the E file. And that's very important. You cannot check that too many times, because if you write that to your C or your D drive, you're going to overlay everything on those drives. You're basically reformatting everything. So make sure you double check that. And for me, I'm good. That's my SD slot is my E. So I'm going to click on the right button. And it's so important, they're wanting you to confirm this again. Writing to a physical device can corrupt the device. Target E. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. And away it goes. And here it goes. And if I remember right, this is going to take me roughly 30 minutes. My notes I wrote down an hour, but I'm pretty sure it's 30 minutes. So I'll come back with the video after it's finished. Okay, it finished. And right when it finished, another window popped up and it said, you need to format the drive in F before you can use it. Do you want to format it? And we're going to cancel that. It says F is not accessible. The volume does not contain a recognized file system. That's okay. So then we come back to the screen where it says write was successful. I say okay. And we can exit this. This being Win32 Disk Manager. So exit that. We go back to Explore. And if you notice now the E drive says something that says boot. Boot E. And it's got these overlays in it. This is our image, and it's a boot image, and that's important because Raspberry Pi is going to use that to boot off of. So that's got the operating system, the games, and everything on it. So when you turn your Raspberry Pi on, it's going to boot off of this micro SD card. The F drive, because it just added another letter to their drive, but there's nothing there, so we're just going to cancel that. It says F's not accessible. We know that. So you are done at this point. So now we're going to pull out the micro SD card and we're going to put it into the Raspberry Pi.
Here's our little micro SD card, 32 gigs. It's the white and gray is the front, and the back is where you got your contacts. This is the little adapter, the USB adapter that comes with the Raspberry Pi starter kit. With the writing is the top or the front. Where the writing isn't missing, that's the back or the bottom. So you just take your micro SD card with the color set up, going into the bottom of the USB adapter. You just push it in. Say it's on the bottom of the USB adapter, color set up. You install it in the USB drive. and the system automatically recognizes it. So I can see it. There's my my USB drive. It's bootable, which is what we want because it's got to go on the Raspberry Pi and boot up. So then when you're done, if you wrote your image to it, you just unplug your USB drive adapter, and with your little thumbnail, it's got a little clip for your thumbnail to pull it out. You pull out the microSD card, and it's ready to go into your Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi starter kit comes with this USB adapter for the microSD cards, but a lot of the microSD cards come with this bigger adapter. Okay, and the way this bigger adapter works is there's a writing on the front side, top side, writing on the top of your microSD card. That just slips in. This time you got writing and writing. You slip it in, and some laptops contain a slot where there's a push in. This laptop does, so I can use this. Just push it in, and it recognizes it, and I can use that the same as I do my USB adapter. So then when I'm done, I just push back on it and it releases and comes out. And then with my thumbnail, I can pull it up and it comes out of this adapter. So it's a different kind of adapter, but these adapters come with most of these micro SD cards. So if your laptop or your computer supports that, that's a good deal. Then you really don't have to mess with this USB adapter. We have the Raspberry Pi all put together. We have it in its case. Now it's time to put our micro SD card in it. So I take it from the SD adapter. So we wrote our image on here. It's got the Wolfanoz image on here. So there's the white and gray, or the writing side, and there's the contact, or the black side. And this is the bottom of your case. So the white and gray, or the contact side, is going away from me, and I'll put this in the slot, and I'll just push it in. All right, so we've installed the micro SD card. On here we have 4 USB ports in our Raspberry Pi. The first thing I'm going to add is a keyboard. I'm going to use a wireless keyboard, so I'm just going to put this dongle in there. Normally I would put a mouse in here, but for this configuration, these tests, I'm not going to be using a mouse, so we'll skip that part. The next piece is I'm going to add a controller. I'll be using a generic PlayStation controller. I bought a whole bunch of these generic controllers off Amazon Prime. I'll put a picture of it here, so if you want to go find them, and I'll link to it in the show notes. But it's got a USB port to it, so I'll just plug it in. And let's see. Next, we want to put in sound. I bought just a cheap $10, $11 sound bar off Amazon Prime. Nice thing about this is it has a USB plug and it's got a power jack. So I can receive power from my Raspberry Pi by placing it into the audio visual jack. And that's nice that the power supply comes from the USB port, because that saves me another cable running around. Okay, now the next piece we're going to do is, okay, so we're going to do my monitor. Now my monitor is a VGA monitor. So I had to buy this little adapter that takes VGA to HDMI, because the Raspberry Pi has HDMI output. So I plug that into the HDMI output. And then the last piece I have to do to hook up the Raspberry Pi is the power switch. And the power switch, this comes with that new kit I bought. This is nice. It's got a little button here. You can turn it on. See, the red light came on. So I'm getting power to this end. You turn it off, and now the LED's not lit, and there's no power here. This is nice because in the old days you used to have to unplug this and plug it back in to remove power from your Raspberry Pi, and then plug it back in to start the boot process. And now you can just cut your power and start your power with this little button. So I'll take this, plug it into my Raspberry Pi. I made sure that LED was off, and now we're good. We got everything set up into the Raspberry Pi. So at this point, I'll turn the camera around over to my test bed and we'll look at the new image. All right, we got it all put together. Got the microSD card into the Raspberry Pi. Got the camera turned around onto my monitor over here. I'm just going to push the Pi switch and we'll see what happens when it boots up. All right, Pi switch has been pressed. LED is on the Raspberry Pi. And there it goes. All right, there we go. It's done booting up. Now, that's just the initial boot up. Takes that long. When we start it consecutive times, it won't take nearly that long. So there is our image running. Now, I'm just using my controller here, and I'm going down through the menu. So and then when I just press my button, I'm on the midway screen. A to select it. And then you'll notice over here is the menu when I push down. So we have different games. And all right, now that we're all powered up, we're all excited. We got the Wolfanoz 32GB image running. The very first thing we do is we'll need our keyboard for this section. So we'll use my keyboard. And what we have to do is we have to configure this controller to work with a track mode. Okay, so there's two places where you can configure your controller. First one is for track mode. Second one is going to be for Emulation Station. So the very first thing for a track mode, I'm going to hit the tab key, and this brings me into my configuration menu for a track mode. So we are going to go into the controls menu, and these are what the control pad is now configured for. The escape, up, down, left, those are the keyboards. Wherever it says joy 0, button 0, that's joystick. No joystick is selected, and button 0 is selected. So one of the things I'll put in this video is which button on your controller here, what is button 0? Is it X? Is it Y, A, B, left shoulder, right shoulder, start, select? So I'll put in this video and also in the show notes, I'll put what all the buttons are, so that when you look at button 0, you'll know button 0 is X. All right, so the very first thing we do is now I'm using, you go in and I'm just using my up and down keypad, up and down keys on my keyboard, and I'm going to select one. So we're going to configure back or exit. So I hit, and by the way, we're going to configure, I'm using my keyboard and my control pad, up, down. So I'm going to just select it. Okay, now we're in the edit control, and action is back. There's two inputs, an escape and a joypad 0. Joy 0, button 0. The escape is for the keyboard. I'm okay with keeping that one, but this one, we want that to be the back buttons. We're going to make it the B button. So the very first thing, I'm going to remove Joy 0, button 0. So I have it highlighted. I'm going to press A, and now we only have the back. So now I'm going to go to add, and I'm going to press the A button, and it's going to ask me to press a button, and I'm going to press the B. So now we have the input is Joy 0, button 2, and then I'm just going to go to the back, press A, and it goes back here. So now you can see where it's got Joy 0, button 2, and I'm going to do that for the up. So I'm going to press A, and there's up for the keyboard, and there's Joy 0 up, and then there's this thing, whatever heck that is. I'm going to remove that. So highlight it, press A, because that's my select button, and there it is. Now go back here to back. So now Joy, the up button's either the up from the keyboard or Joy 0 up, which is the D-pad. D-pad, up, down. So I'm going to do this all the way down, and once again in this video I'll tell you what all the button configuration settings are for these. Alright, I'm done configuring the attract mode controls, so I'm just using my button to go through the attract mode menu. If I select one, then I'm in the Williams arcade. You can tell right there is the graphic. Over here is the game selection. If I want to go back to the main menu, I'm just going to hit B for back, and it sends me back. So now, if I want to go ahead and look at the configuration, the way I use this is I'm going to use the button B plus up. So B up. And now I'm in the configuration menu. If I go look at the controls, so I use my D-pad to go up to the controls. I'm going to use A to select it. And you can see how I have these set up. And it's a little bit more simpler than it is now. So this is just to navigate through attract mode. Now I've got to go set my controller up for an Emulation Station. Alright, now that I've got my gamepad controller configured for attract mode, now we have to go in and configure our gamepad controller for each of the games. And the way you do that is we're going to navigate through this menu, and we're going to go to RetroPie. And I'm going to press A, select that, and then this is a submenu, and we're going to look for something, reboot to Emulation Station, because we're going to configure this controller for games in Emulation Station. So there, and select A. So now it's rebooting your machine into the Emulation Station front end. All right, we're back now. You notice how it says one gamepad detected. Hold a button for your device to configure it. I'm just going to press A. It could be any of these buttons. A. Okay, now we're just going to go through all of these and start assigning buttons. So D-pad up, D-pad up, D-pad down, D-pad down, D-pad left, and so on. And so start, select, A, B, X, Y, left shoulder, right shoulder. Now the rest of these I don't want to assign anything, so I'm just going to hold A down, and it's going to just keep going through them and say not defined. For the hotkey, I'm going to press the select button on my controller. It automatically went down to OK. Press A. And it came back to the main menu. So now we'll test a game and see what happens after doing the controller. So I'm highlighting, I'm going up and down. I'm going to pick A to select arcade. And we'll just go through these lists of games. And that looks pretty good. I hit A to select the game. It's going to boot up. Now this will be the same screen as when in your attract mode. This should all look exactly the same. Okay, right here there's no credits. So I'm going to hit select. And you see where it gave it a credit of 1. Hit select again. Okay, now that we've entered 2 coins, now I'm going to press A, or start. Now it starts. And here comes my little plane. So I'm pressing down, up, left, right to move the plane around. And there's my lightning bolt with A. I'm firing with B. And everything looks good. Okay, to exit the game, I press select and start, and it kicked me back to this main menu. Now that we're done playing this game, I'm going to hit the B button for back. And so right now we're in the arcade menu. If I hit B, it'll take me to the main menu here. So now remember, I'm still in Emulation Station, and we really want to be in a track mode. Now that we configured our controller, we'll go to a track mode. And the way you do that is we want to scroll to the option that says, where is it? RetroPie, right here. Now I'm going to hit the A button, select that. And then you got this menu here for RetroPie items. And we want to go to the bottom where it says switch to a track mode. And I'm going to press the A button. And now we're going to boot out of Emulation Station and into a track mode. Okay, we're back in the track mode. I can maneuver through that. So I'm on the arcade, press A, and over here in this wheel, I have my different options for the arcade. Lots of options here. I'm going to hit B. B takes me back. You go to these different ones. Hit A, select an Atari thing. There's Asteroids Deluxe. These are just Atari games. And we hit B to go back. So I got all kinds of games. It's got them categorized too. I hit A, we'll go on the Midway game. All kinds of stuff in there. Wizard of War, I hit A. Now it's booting up the ROM. So now it says insert coin. I'm going to hit select. And I entered another one. Notice up here it says two credits. So now I'm going to hit A to start the game. And there goes my guy. He's the yellow guy over here. And if I press, I can move him around my D-pad and press, oops. I'm pressing B to shoot. Okay, so we got the gamepad controller working. We went into Emulation Station and did that. We got our controller set up for track mode. Now we're playing games. The problem now we have is I'm on a monitor that's 4x3. And if you notice, this monitor's got the bezel showing up. So this game was configured to run on like a regular TV monitor instead of a game monitor. So if you want to use this image in an arcade system or an arcade one-up cabinet that's got a horizontal monitor, we want to eliminate these bezels. So next part of this video, I'll show you how to eliminate those bezels. Now to eliminate the bezel, first thing we want to do is get out of this game. So I'm just going to press the select and start button at the same time. It exits the game and it takes me back to this game menu. Now I'm going to scroll up these are the games for the Midway sub menu. So I'm going to hit the B button to go back. Now I'm in the main menu. And I'm just scrolling through the main menu. And I'm looking for RetroPie. and I choose A to get the RetroPie item. Now RetroPie, I'm just going to use my D-pad, and as soon as I press it up or down, it'll show me these options here. All right, now we're just going to scroll through this menu, and we're going to see something called the RetroArch Bezel Overlay utility. And I'm going to just press the A button, and we'll go into this screen. And it basically says RetroPie RetroArch Bezel Utility Menu. This utility will provide a quick way to hide or show bezels within RetroArch emulators. So it says, do you want to proceed, after you read all that? And we're just going to, the yes is highlighted. We're going to hit A. And then it's going to say Hide System Bezel Overlay. And OK is selected. And I'm going to, by default, I'm just going to click A. And so we can choose different systems. And I am just going to use arcade because I know that's what this image is set for. So I'm going to press the OK. That's processing. So which we've already done that. I'm going to scroll over to exit, select A, scroll over to exit, select A. And now we're back. So now I'm going to get out of this menu. I hit B. Now I'm in this main menus. Midway. All right, we're in Midway. There's Wizard of War. Select A, start it back up. And now we notice that the bezels are no longer showing. So I'll just hit a select, put my coin in. Got 2 credits up here. Hit start. There we go. Now the whole screen is showing everything. So I'm just moving my yellow guy around, hitting my B button to fire, using my D-pad to move around. And that's it. So that's how you get rid of the bezels. Now, if I move this screen to a TV, I want to go back and turn the bezels back on. But since it's on a 4x3 monitor or like an arcade monitor, I want to turn the bezels off. Now to exit this, once again, I'm hitting select and start at the same time. Exit this. Now I'm in the menu. I'm in the Midway Classics menu. I hit B, and I go to the main menu. So that pretty much does it for this video on how to set up the Wolfanoz 32GB image for your RetroPie. Let me just give you some thoughts here. There's 2,400 games on here, and if you were going right through the arcade menu, that's a lot of games to scroll through. Now he's done a nice job on categorizing these, and so in subsequent videos I'll show you how to customize this even more. We'll work with the favorites menu, and we'll create our own displays so you can have your own subcategory games. I'll show you how to hide some of this stuff. You know, maybe you don't care about Capcom 1, 2, and 3 and you want to hide all that stuff. We'll go through the whole process of doing all that. All right. That wraps up this RetroPie video, reviewing how to set up your Raspberry Pi Model 3 or 3B Plus to play the Wolfanoz 32GB image, classic arcade games. So, hopefully I exposed you to something new in this video. Be sure to keep watching my YouTube channel, catch upcoming videos about retro gaming systems featuring the RetroPie software running on the Raspberry Pi. I think you'll find them very interesting, entertaining, and even educational. The future videos in this series, they'll show you how to perform more detailed and technical configuration settings within RetroPie, Emulation Station, and the track mode. I'll show you how to set up the image with arcade games for vertical monitors. Now, I'll be going through all kinds of technical things. You'll see how to create your own displays. You'll see how to hide some of these displays. I'll show you how to work with the favorites. We'll do all kinds of things to make this customized for what you want in your gaming system and the games that you want to see, which most likely aren't 2,400 games. Click on that subscribe button below the play pause button. And for automatic updates when I add content to my YouTube channel, don't forget to ring that bell. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you dislike this video, then click on the thumbs down button. Please leave any feedback you have in the comment section below. And remember, you're never too young to learn or too old to learn.